Thank you for tuning in to the reading, powered by Black Spectrum Network. Go to www.blackspectrumnetwork.com and purchase a private psychic reading. Click the subscribe button to stay in the know about when this channel releases new content. If you can't get enough of my videos, get a Patreon membership. For as little as $2, you can receive videos at least 1 week ahead of their YouTube release date. I'm your reader for today, Nexo, and we're going to be reading about the Tuskegee experiment. Okay, so the first question I'm about to ask deals with what was I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, so please correct me if I'm because I know this is probably mispronounced. But what was Taliaferro Clark's original mission when he founded the Tuskegee Syphilis study? The foundation of the reading is speaking specifically about the foundation of the reading is speaking specifically about him setting out to him doing the study for the purpose of medical experimentation and to acquire knowledge about diseases. They wanted to know how to treat diseases, yes, but they also wanted to know how long it would take for a sexually transmitted disease to kill someone. They also wanted to be able to profit from this particular study as well. It was a form of medical slavery. It allowed for the U.S. government to collect tons of information about our cardiovascular system and how syphilis as I feel it's I'm probably getting this incorrect, but I hear them saying bacteria, but syphilis as a form of bacteria can mutate, and they were also they were also wondering, could they manipulate this bacteria, virus. I'm sorry. I'm not a biologist, but they wanted to know if they could mutate this virus to become more deadly. That's what I am hearing as a foundation of it. But I'm going to pull more cards to see what was he setting. What was his original mission in trying to get this study accomplished. Okay, so I get the Five of Wands, I get the Emperor, I get the Five of Cups, and this is all telling me that he himself, he was doing this for the money. The founder of this particular study was wanting to provide for his family. His wife, I get that she was a stay-at-home mom. I'm also saying that he had a young son. I see that he came from a family where he was in competition with his siblings. I get that he was trying to he was really just trying to secure himself financially. He wasn't thinking about the ethics behind getting the study done. Okay, so his ancestors are coming through, and they're what they're revealing to me is that he was they're revealing to me that he had he was very new to he was new to learning. He was new to knowledge. He I think this may have been his first lifetime where he incarnated as someone that was an intellectual, that had a desire to learn, a desire to acquire scientific knowledge about the human body and knowing about the pathology in particular. I think that this man had a deep desire to know about how to create plagues. I feel that his interest in death and disease, it was new for him. He was a new soul. I feel like this was his first incarnation in one in which he was able to incarnate into someone that could assume a position of power. The Fool card is saying that he was very immature. Even though he was incredibly educated, He was an inventory scientist, and then the King of Wands is saying that he wanted to do this study. Let me get more information. I'm going to clarify. He knew he kind of he knew that this story, not the story, he knew that this study was morally, and it was morally and socially unethical. He knew that he knew that this experiment would have tremendously negative consequences on his study participants. But him as the King of Swords, he's like, I've got to go through with it anyway. I have to protect my home and protect my family. I have to secure, he's like, I have to secure the bag. So that was his original mission in getting this done. So I'm going to now ask about the CDC. Why would the CDC, not the CDC, but why would the public health services, authorize this particular study? Spirit is saying that they authorized this study because white researchers had a fascination. What Spirit is saying, that white researchers had a fascination with African DNA and African biology. They inherently felt that African people were inherently inferior, but they also felt like their bodies were strong enough to endure disease. They wanted to know how, they felt like, African people's bodies are genetically superior to ours, but their minds are inferior to ours. How can we design a disease that can and a drug? How can we design a disease that will? Let me get my words together because this is a lot. How can I study and then design and then mutate this disease and spread it amongst this population to kill them? They wanted to know, this was a form of population control for them, that the public health services was thinking about. And then I get the Five of Swords and the Three of Hazards, and it's like the public health services took a lot of action to disrupt the African American family through doing this. That's why they targeted African American men in particular, because they knew that white people already during this time had this belief that because African American family structures were matriarchal, made their nuclear families inferior. So to further perpetuate that stereotype and to exploit it, they targeted African American men and took them from their homes and had them to participate in this particular study. Then they get the Five of Swords. So it's like there was a fight over this. There was a scuffle, and there was an internal scuffle between perhaps the president of the public health services and another sort of clinician or researcher. But overall, it was the public health services. They wanted, the majority of them wanted to go ahead with the study. But there was one person. I don't know who this person was, but I'm just seeing this being a white man who felt like this was not the way to go about studying this disease, that he didn't want it to be authorized. And he felt like there were other ways that this disease could have been studied, but he eventually acquiesced to it because he was about democracy. So he's like, everyone's the board has voted on it, and I'm going to just have to go through with it because that's what the board wants. Okay, so now I want to know, this person is named Raymond A. Vonderleen. I think this is it. I probably don't. Yes, Vonderleen. Yes, this is Vonderleen. I can't read my handwriting. So what was Raymond A. Vonderleen thinking when he drafted and developed the policies that made this a 40-year study? Okay, so this was initially supposed to be about a 9-month study. This was not a longitudinal project. But Raymond A. Vanderline, he was a research director over this particular project, and when he was creating the policies for this, he designed it so that it could, he designed this particular study so that it could be longitudinal. I mean, to the degree that it's 40 years, you know what I mean? Most people's dissertations are only about, 2 years worth of data. They may, create a book that has 10 years worth of data on their own, but this research team was doing the study for, almost half a century. You know what I'm saying? And it probably is, and it has those 40 years. We're probably underestimating the length of this study. This study could have started in 1922. It could have been an actual 50-year study. So be skeptical of the information that we all need to be skeptical of the information that it is that we can consume about this, because again, this is highly questionable. So I'm going to answer the question: what was he thinking when he drafted and developed this particular policy to make it a longitudinal study? He was juggling a lot. Raymond A. Vanderleen, when I say he was juggling a lot, he had many theoretical questions on his mind about the usefulness of syphilis. And could this be packaged into little vials, and can we distribute syphilis as a weapon, as to other countries? Can we infect them? Can we use this as a weapon? Can we put this into our guns? Can we literally turn this into a military style weapon? This is how I'm hearing it. Then there is the Three of Cups. So it's like he also was thinking about, well, he was a cheater, but he was thinking about, securing a bag for his family. And then the Four of Hazards, it's like, he's one of those men that didn't listen to his ancestors. His ancestors didn't want him to do this particular study. They didn't want him to make it longitudinal. That was his own doing, and that's what the Four of Hazards is saying to me. He chose to do this on his own, and the Ten of Wands is saying that with all of these biological questions that he had, he felt that a 40-year study was the only way to figure out for him, the truth. How can we need to make the most out of this. That's why he did it. Now I want to know, did the Tuskegee Institute and the U.S. Public Health Services truly believe that the benefits outweighed the risks? The benefits of this study outweighed the risks for these men. Okay? Did the Tuskegee Institute and the U.S. Public Health Services truly believed that the benefits of this study outweighed the risks for these men? They truly did. I get the King of Cups, and it's saying like, they were drowning in a wealth of information. They were acquiring a lot of knowledge about how this particular disease worked, how long it took to activate, how to treat it, what were the consequences of not treating it, how could you keep it undetectable in someone's system. It's almost like they wanted to know what made this disease effective at killing human beings, so that they could design another disease with the same properties and make it stronger, because this bacteria is inherently not strong enough to resist, different medications. Penicillin is particularly powerful, but they were trying to figure out how can we make something that's stronger, that works similarly to syphilis, but it's faster and more deadly. The Ten of Swords is saying that they felt like these people were sacrificial lambs, that these people were, it's like they truly felt like these people were benefiting. It's like, they're getting two hots in a cot. We're providing them, with attention. They would never get this anywhere else. And that's truly how they felt. The King of Cups is saying that they were confident and cool, calculated in this decision. The only reason that they felt like they were in over their heads is because of the wealth of information that they had collected. And then the King of Hazards is saying that they were bound. They were contractually bound, legally bound to completing this study. Because of the policies that had been drafted by this particular man. That's how they rationalized it to themselves. They did not allow for their intuition to shape their thoughts on this. They were strictly about this being an academic project that needed to be completed. Now I'm going to ask, what do the ancestors of the research studies participants think about the researchers saying that these people, meaning that these African American men, would never have gotten treatment because their sex drive was too high and they were too uneducated to seek treatment? Now, what do the participants' ancestors think of that? Okay. So, this is a lot. All right. So, their ancestors are pretty much, their ancestors are not exactly speaking right now. They're more about action. They've taken action. The type of action that they have taken is, for the people in this research study, it's like their families have generational curses on them, where the women have to deal with the men in the men cheating on them. They're also, the Nine of Cups is also saying a lot of the women for the people that created and recruited people for this study, that analyzed the data, the people that didn't shut the project down, their families have a generational curse on them. So they may be financially wealthy, they have to deal with the generational pathology where women are violent, women are out of their mind, they are prone to having psychotic attacks, and that's because of these people's ancestors. The Ten of Cups is saying that I'm aware that there was a $10 million settlement, which would adjusting for inflation, which would be about about $50 million today. Okay, but the Ten of Cups is saying that they helped the NAACP successfully sue the Public Health Services for this particular study. The High Priestess is saying that they're not done. Their ancestors are not done with cursing different people for this, because I'm hearing that if you are a researcher who works at the Center for Disease Control, for example, you need to be careful of the data that you use. And if you are someone whose ancestors have knowledge about why this particular study was instituted and allowed to run for so long, if you have if your ancestors have behind the scenes knowledge about that, you can expect for these research study participants' ancestors to be coming after you. In particular, they have to deal with. Indecision. Indecision regarding like entertainment careers, publicity, lots of attention. Like, the ancestors are putting the spotlight on the descendants of these researchers. They are pretty much like, how do I say this? They're not decisive people. That's the best way that I can put it. They ebb and flow. And the ancestors, these people, the study participants' ancestors, have. Neurotic. That's the word. Neurotic. Okay, so the research, basically, there's a curse of neurosis over people who use this particular data. okay, over people that have used this data to design new diseases. Okay, they're in a state of neurosis, constant neurosis. I wouldn't be surprised if these people have committed suicide. I wouldn't be surprised if these people have issues with alcohol, and if the women that they attract are have a tendency to stalk you. Okay. So it's again, they're not, the ancestors didn't even, they're not talking about thinking. They're all about doing right now. So that's what I see. Okay, so I'm going to now ask, um, was the Rosenwald Fund complicit in this study? If you don't know what the Rosenwald Fund is, it's ROSENWAULD. The Rosenwald Fund. You all need to look that up, because if you live in the South, whether you're white or you black, you benefited from the Rosenwald Fund. Okay, and your family did as well. So Spirit is saying that. Spirit is saying that the Rosenwald Fund helped to recruit, but they weren't privy to this study being longitudinal. They did not know that this they didn't know everything. Okay, the Rosenwald Fund. I'll say this: initially, they did not know the depth to which the Public Health Services, the CDC, and the Tuskegee Institute was trying to study these people, and they didn't know how unethical this was on the surface. Now, when they found out, however, did the Rosenwald Fund stop collecting checks and collecting money? No, they did not. Well, let me make sure. Did they stop? The Sun, the Knight of Swords, Spirit is in the Magician, and I'm the Magician in the Tarot. My ancestors and my spirit. Baron is coming through, and he's pretty much just like you. You're correct. I mean, you said what you said. You're shining a light on things right now, and you're telling a lot of the truth. This is the truth. So yeah, I mean, the Rosenwald Fund still collected money from this. They were complicit in it. Initially, they signed the deal not knowing what this study was, but when they found out they were also handed a paycheck. And so did they remove their hands from the situation? No. No, they didn't. It's a woman that was that's a part of the Rosenwald Fund. She was she was responsible for providing lab space and medical equipment to the researchers. So yeah, there's someone, a woman, and she's a woman. I want to say that she, in the Rosenwald Fund, I'm getting that this woman was an older woman. She retired in, like, as, part of this foundation. She never left, but she was responsible for, like, signing off, making sure that this particular study was funded. So yes, the Rosenwald Fund was complicit in the Tuskegee experiments. Okay, so I'm gonna do a fresh shuffle, and then I'm gonna answer a few more questions. Okay, so I want to know why didn't the Center for Disease Control discontinue this study in 1966? Because the Center for Disease Control knew that this study was unethical. Okay, the Center for Disease Control, they lobbied with they had the American Medical Association, and I can't remember the other. I should have written this down, but they had two very prominent professional organizations. One of them was supposed to represent African American physicians, medical physicians. They had, the Center for Disease Control was telling the general public this study was good. They were having, literally doctoral level organizations, elite organizations, saying that this study was legitimate. But why did they not discontinue it in 1966? Why would they not? That's what I want to know. I don't want to know why they were so evil. I want to know why what was behind them not discontinuing this particular study. Well, spirit is like any. There were people trying to blow the whistle on it, but it was a woman that was like literally like the head of this. There was a woman, and she was very smart, and she's like, no, this is. The information was too valuable to them. But the Tower card is saying that once it was kind of like they knew in 1966, they knew they had to start wrapping up the study. I'll say that. They had to start wrapping things up. But mind you, ending the study meant that all of the research participants had to die. To clarify about the nine of hazards, they're saying that this woman, they're saying that this woman, she was about her money. She was about the check. So it's like they were collecting money from this particular study. And also I'm hearing that they were allowing syphilis started spreading in other countries that syphilis would have normally not have been found in. I'll say that. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so this is all about population control, and this is about imperialism, okay? And this is like an imperialist project, but it was, we can't see how it's imperialist because it required, it was on a local level. So it's like, there are 500 black men that participated in the study, but please believe they took this data and they have created things that, they created diseases that are, pretty much immune to powerful drugs. So they didn't want to discontinue it for that particular reason. But I feel like I need more. I guess I need to ask. What secrets did the Center for Disease Control? What secrets were they holding on to in 1966? That's what I'll ask. Spirit's like, this is a very good question. Okay, so basically, it helped to legitimate the public health service. It legitimated the Center for Disease Control because they were creating this social problem. Okay, they were literally giving people syphilis. Okay. All right, and in these different communities, they were encouraging prostitution. They were literally making sure that they left these communities impoverished and that syphilis could spread within them, and that these people could get treatment for it. It's like, yeah, it helped to. The syphilis experiment allowed for the CDC to start legitimating itself in the public eye, to convince white people that it's legitimate, that they deserve, to distribute grants and control, to have some control of the pharmaceutical some control of the pharmaceutical industry, or to have a hand in how it is orchestrated at a macroscopic level, on a macroscopic level. The high priestess in the Six of Hazards is like, they're saying they literally were dangling this information in the public's face to perpetuate the myth that black people had these incredibly high sex drives. The effects of this particular study on society it influenced people's biases and prejudices. It influenced black the it legitimated images of black people as hypersexual. It legitimated black exploitation. It informs how white researchers understand black sexuality and why it is that they feel that HIV is a problem in our community, and they don't address it in the ways in which black researchers would like for those things to be addressed. This setup, this basically this is feeding the European Asili, okay? The European Asili. Check out the book Yurugu. Yurugu. Yurugu is feeding the European Asili. So it's like this study is deadly. This study was deadly. It was deadly on an intellectual level. It was deadly on how it informed biologists and public health researchers, social workers, on how to deal with African American sexual health. This is a lot. This is a lot. This was a long range project. This project was long. It's very intelligent. It really seeks to destroy the African American family. Okay, so I now want to know, what did the CDC do with the data they collected from the subjects who died and were autopsied? Spirit is saying that I already explained it. This helped to legitimate the CDC in the eyes of the United Nations as well, the American CDC, so that they could have more influence over other countries. The Justice card is saying that this was all about like tipping the scales in the United States' favor, so that they could be a leading superpower in the pharmaceutical industry. The Eight of Cups and then the Emperor card is saying that at the time, I feel like there was a president that benefited from this as well. Like multiple different presidents benefited financially from their knowing of this study, so they knew about it, but they didn't say anything about it. And I'm saying at least because I know that this happened over the course of 40 years. So that let us know that there had to be, at the bare minimum, at least 10 different presidents. And at the most, we probably had about 5 different presidents. With all that being said, I'm saying 2 of them in particular that knew about this, and they were pocketing money from it. And I see that they had the power to blow the whistle, but they didn't want the whistle to. They didn't want that to happen. So this study was part of helping the United States become a superpower in the healthcare industry. And in the medical sector. The Star, the Seven of Hazards, and the Queen of Swords. These cards are saying that they wanted to basically figure out how to create a disease that could affect African American women at very, very high rates. Like, how could they create a disease that they could pass it down, that African American women could pass it down to their children? That's what I hear. And that's why they didn't discontinue it. Okay, so my final question is, do the ancestors of these study participants feel that the $10 million settlement is enough? Because the NAACP sued, they deployed a lawsuit, and they successfully won the lawsuit. The descendants of these study participants were able to receive money from this particular settlement. But I'm wondering if $50 million was enough. Do their ancestors feel that was enough money? The Wheel of Fortune, the Two of Cups, the card for Temperance. Their ancestors are kind of like they're like 1 foot out the door, 1 foot in the door. The ancestors are kind of like they've not made up their mind. They've not made up their mind because they were like, as far as money goes, they don't mind more money. They really don't mind this settlement being even larger, but they don't mind the settlement. They don't mind this case being revisited, and for the United States to pay even higher an even higher settlement. They feel like this, this needs to be resettled. But they've not particularly made up their mind about if money is good enough, if paying into the lineage is good enough. They're not sure about that, because I'm hearing that the people that died in this particular study, what do they want to say? The people that died in this study, overall, their voices are saying that in their realm, on their side, they have collectively acquired mystical powers that have, put a curse on white researchers that have benefited from this study in any way, even if you're benefiting from it just by, researching into it historically, but not demonizing these practices. So if you don't demonize the practices, if you don't say that these researchers were menacing the African American community, you can expect yourself to be cursed by this. It's like their ancestors are, kind of sort of going for blood. It's not really about money for them. It's more so like, well, yeah, I mean, we can drain more pockets. We can, you can pay more into the lineage, but they don't feel like they have really collected their dues. The offering of atonement has not been paid in full by the descendants of these researchers and the United States. With that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning into the reading powered by Black Spectrum Network. Go to www.blackspectrumnetwork.com and purchase a private psychic reading. Click the subscribe button to stay in the know about when this channel releases new content. And if you can't get enough of my videos, make sure that you get a Patreon membership. For as little as $2, you can receive videos at least 1 week ahead of time. So thank you all for supporting me. Thank you all for watching this video. Remember, the cards are still speaking, and don't trust no lone witches. Bye.
So fuel my fire, take me higher, I'll be your liar too. Cause when we're here, there's nothing better than the skyline.